All right, so shalom, shalom. All right, so first and foremost, I'm gonna start off by saying Barakathon, Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shah. And I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shout out to the whole elect, starting with the 144,000. Shalom. All right, so Lord willing, right? I want to go into this lesson, right? We'll title it Part 2. Then we'll toss to and fro. As I mentioned, in the lesson, I wanted to go into history. Right? It's more of a, I'm bringing out a few scriptures as well. I want to go into history, man, of the split of our kingdoms, right, and how the northern kingdom was over here, and then Jacob ended up being brought over here. The southern kingdom had been brought over here through ships, through slave ships, right? We know that the great diaspora, right? So Lord willing, through the Spirit, right, we'll go into that, right? So first I want to go into First King, right? Just going into, because under Saul, under King Saul, under King David, the kingdoms were together, Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom. Then you had a split after King Solomon died. Let's see. Let's go into where's First Kings. All right, so First Kings chapter 11, right? And when Solomon, he let the woman turn her hearts away from the Most High, right? We'll read that real fast. This is First Kings chapter 11, right? And we'll start at verse. We'll get straight to the point. Right here, right? Verse 4, it says, For it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned his heart after their gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord Yahweh, his power, as was the heart of David, his father, right? When the heart going to mine, right? So Solomon let these women turn his heart away, turn his mind away to have to follow the gods of these women, because as right here in verse 3 says, Solomon had 700 wives, princesses, right, and 300 concubines, right? His wives turned his heart away, right? He let the woman turn her heart away, And one thing I want to make mention, the scripture said that he would be, matter of fact, let's grab that. Right, so. That's 1 Samuel chapter 9. Chapter 9. Bear with me. When King David told, it's like Yahweh Shah told King David, a king will come out of his bowels. Bear with me. Okay, 2 Samuel chapter 7. Slaki, right? So 2 Samuel chapter 7, starting around verse, right? Where's that? He said when you search. Okay, right here, right? 2 Samuel chapter 7, starting verse 12, right? It's Most High talking to King David. It says, when thy days be fulfilled, and thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, I will set up thy seed after thee, which shall proceed out thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. Right, talking about Solomon, because we understand Yahweh Shah Solomon, same spirit, right? Is that Yahweh Shah came and perfected, when he came back as Yahweh Shah, he perfected. That's the air. It's kind of loud, right? Right. It says, he shall build an house for my name and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever, which we know he didn't. So what it's talking about? It's talking about he's going to get this through what? Through Yahweh Shah, right? It says, and I will be his father, he shall be my son. If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men, with with the stripes of the children of men, which is what happened when that happened? As Yahweh Shah, right? You know? So understanding that what? Right? Well, I read down the Moses said, my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, right? Whom I put away before thee. And thy house and thy kingdom shall be established forever before thee. Thy throne shall be established forever, right? According to all these words and according to all this vision, so that Nathan speaks to David. So understanding that, these things that happened through Solomon, because Solomon went off. When is that kingdom going to be established forever? It's going to be established through who? Right? Yahweh Shah, right? Because King Solomon and Yahweh Shah, same spirit, right? So going back to 1 Samuel, it's like going back to 1 Kings, right? When Solomon let the women turn his heart away, right? The Most High rent the kingdom, right? So let's go there. Right here, we start right here. We jump down right here in verse 12, right? Now, actually, we'll start right here in verse. We'll start right here in verse 11, right? Or 10. It's like 1 Kings 11 and 10, right? It says he commanded him concerning this thing that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which the Lord Yahweh commanded, right? So King Solomon broke it. He broke it, right? So that's what the Most High said he's going to do, right? He said, wherefore the Lord Yahweh said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, right? He said, and my statutes which I have surely commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and will give it to thy servant. Notwithstanding in thy days, I will not do it for. Notwithstanding in thy days, I will not do it for David thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of thy hand. I will rend it out of the hand of thy son. Howbeit, I will not rend away all the kingdom, but I will give one tribe to thy son for David's sake and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen. Right? So you understand that what? It's talking about who? Right? It's talking about Solomon. The kingdoms was just when going to the kingdom was split. He split the kingdoms, right? You got northern kingdom, right? Ephraim on down. You got southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, right? And he kept Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and the others was split, right? So, right? Let's go here. Let's see. Right, so this is when Jeroboam comes into play, right? Jeroboam, right? He was the son of Nebat and Ephraimite, right? I think Ephraimite, right? So he's the leader of the northern kingdom, right? So it's when he come into play, right? So I'm gonna start right here in verse 29. Actually, I'll start at verse 26, right? It says, and Jeroboam the son of Nebat and Ephrathite was Zebariah, Solomon's servant, whose mother name was Zerah, a widow woman. Even he lifted up his hand against the king, and this was the cause that he lifted up his hand against the king. Solomon built Milo and repaired the breaches of the city of David his father. And the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor. And Solomon, seeing the young man that he was industrious, he made him ruler over all the charge of the house of Joseph. Right? Joseph and Ephraim interchangeable. You go to Numbers chapter 1, verse 32, and you understand that Joseph and Ephraim is interchangeable, right? So it says, and it came to pass at that time when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, that the prophet Ahijah, the Shilonite, found him in the way, and he had clad himself with a new garment, and they two were alone in the field, right? It says, and Ahijah caught the new garment that was on him and rent it in 12 pieces, representing the 12 tribes of Israel, right? And he said to Jeroboam, take thee 10 pieces, for this saith the Lord Yahweh, the power of Israel, right? Behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon. I will give thee 10 tribes, going to the northern kingdom. This is a split, right? This is the split happening, right? It says, but he shall have one tribe for service sake. That's the southern kingdom, right? Judah, Benjamin, Levi, right? For my servant David's sake and for Jerusalem's sake, the city was Jerusalem was majority of at the time it was together, but at the split, Jerusalem was more of the southern kingdom, majority of the southern kingdom, right? It was really mainly of the southern kingdom, right? He said, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, right? So, boom, understanding that, right? So, now understanding, right, this is when the kingdoms were split. So after Solomon died, his son his son came into rulership, right? Rehoboam, right? So Rehoboam came to rulership, right? Verse 30, down to verse 43, right? It says, Solomon reigned 40 years, right? And the kingdom was beautiful when Solomon ruled. Solomon was smart. Solomon was like, he just lacked discipline, man. But he obtained it through Yahushua. People was coming all over to see the kingdom, right? So right in verse 43 says that Solomon slept with the fathers, meaning he died and was buried in the city of David, his father, and Rehoboam, his son, reigned in his stead, right? So when Rehoboam come to rulership, Solomon knew what was going on with the kingdom being taken from him. So he was out to get Jeroboam. So Jeroboam fled, right? He fled. I want to say he fled into Egypt. He fled into Egypt, right? So when he died, Jeroboam came back to Jerusalem to try to, in a sense, make peace. Try to see if Rehoboam was still on the same timing of his father, right? It says so right here, right? Verse 2. So Rehoboam king, right? This first King chapter 12, verse 2. It said it came to pass when Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who was yet in Egypt, heard of it, for he was fled from the presence of King Solomon. Jeroboam dealt in Egypt. He said that they sent and called him, and Jeroboam and all the congregation of Israel came and spake unto Rehoboam, saying, Thy father made our yoke grievous, right? Now therefore make the grievous service of thy father and his heavy yoke, which he put upon us, lighter, and we will serve thee. He was telling like, look, man, your father had hard on us. He was out to get me, man. The kingdoms were split, right? So this is going to the split of the kingdom. We know it's all prophecy, But Rehoboam wasn't trying to listen. Rehoboam like, nah, I'm keeping it the same way my father had it, right? So, right, I'm gonna jump down, right? Verse 12, it says, So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam the third day, as the king had appointed, saying, Come to me again the third day. And the king answered the people roughly and forsook the old man counsel that they gave him, because they were trying to tell him, like, hey, listen to him, don't move that way. But Rehoboam wasn't listening. Also giving him, it was all prophecy, right? He said he spake. And he spake to them after the counsel of the young man, saying, My father made your yoke heavy, and I will add to your yoke. My father also chastened you with whips, but I will chasten you with scorpions. Wherefore the king hearkened not to the people, for the cause was from the Lord. It's all prophecy. The Most High put the spirit in him to do this, because the kingdom is going to be split, right? He said, nowadays, for our Savior David's sake, for our Savior servant David's sake, I ain't going to do it in your days, right? But the kingdom is going to be split, right? So wherefore the king hearkened not to the people, for this cause was from the Lord Yahweh, that he might perform his sayings. It's all prophecy, which the Lord Yahweh spake by Ajah, the Shilonite, to Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, because the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom was splitting, right? So it's prophecy I had to go down, right? So now, it says, so when all of Israel saw that the king hearkened not unto them, the people answered the king, saying, What portion have we in David? Neither have we inherited in the son of Jesse to your tents, O Israel. Now see thine own house, David. So Israel departed to their tents. As for the children of Israel, which dwelt in the cities of Judah, Rehoboam reigned over them, right? Judah, Benjamin, Levi, the southern kingdom. The king Rehoboam sent Adoram, who was over the tribute, and all Israel stoned him with stones that he died. Therefore King Rehoboam made speed to get him up to his chariot to flee to Jerusalem, right? So let me see how I want to get to. Bear with me. I'm just jumping through the chapter, just really, just to bring the whole point across, right? Right. So understanding that Rehoboam ruled over the southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, right? So but Jeroboam, he didn't want the people to go, right? Matter of fact, right here. So right here the point, right? So this first Kings 12, I started verse 23, right? I started verse 22 actually, right? It says, But the word of Yahweh came unto Shemaiah, the man of Yahweh, saying, Speak unto Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, king of Judah, and unto all the house of Judah and Benjamin, and the remnant of thy people, saying, This is the Lord Yahweh. Ye shall not go up nor fight against your brethren, the children of Israel. Return every man to his house, for this thing is from me. They hearken therefore to the word of the Lord Yahweh, and return to depart according to the word of the Lord Yahweh. and they was going to take over, right? You know, right? So verse 25 said, then Jeroboam built Shechem and Mount Ephraim, right? It says, and dwelt therein, and went out from thence and built Peniel, right? And Jeroboam said in his heart, now shall the kingdom return to the house of David. That's what he said. If this people shall go to do the sacrifice in the house of the Lord Yahweh at Jerusalem, right? It said, then shall the heart of this people turn against them, and turn again to their Lord, even to Rehoboam, king of Judah, and they shall kill me and go into Rehoboam, the king of Judah. So he was scared. You know, he didn't want the people to go celebrate the holidays and things that such, high holy days and such. He like, no, they go over there and be with them, they're gonna turn against me, right, and try to kill me, right? So guess what he did? And this is what we're gonna lead us into history of the Northern Kingdom. Northern Kingdom going into captivity. This is when they did evil inside the Lord, right? Right here. So verse 28, it says, and whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold, and said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold, they gods, O Israel, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, right? And he set the one in Bethel, and he set the other in Dan. So he said, and this thing became a sin, for the people went to worship before the one, even unto Dan, right? So now, right, you having these people worship these golden calves. They going off bad, right? They going off real bad, right? So now let's go into, so now you see the split of the kingdoms, right? This one, the kingdom split, right? You had Israel dealing like northern kingdom, like Samaria, right? Northern kingdom dealing in Samaria. Then you had Judah, Benjamin, Levi, the southern kingdom in Jerusalem, right? So now let's go to 2 Kings chapter 17, right? Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 17, right? And we'll start at verse 1, right? It says, in the 12th year of Oz, the king of Judah, began Hoshea, the son of Elah, to reign in Samaria over Israel 9 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, but not as the kings of Israel that were before him. Again, against him came up Shalmaneser, right? The king of Assyria, right? Hoshea became his servant and gave him presents, right? So now Most High calls Shalmaneser, right, to come up against the northern kingdom because of the evil they was doing, the golden calves or whatnot. So he calls the Assyrians to come up against them. Remember Nebuchadnezzar was a Assyria. They just took over Babylon. That's why they call it Syria, Babylonian Empire. But they just took over the Babylonian Empire, right? But these people took over. The Assyrians took over the northern kingdom, right? With Shalmaneser, right? It says, and the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hosea, right? For he had sent messages to the king of Egypt, and brought no presents to the king of Assyria. He had done year by year. Therefore, the king of Assyria shut him up and brought him in prison. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years. So he took over. It says in the 9th year of Hosea, the king of Assyria, right? In the 9th year of Hosea, the king of Assyria, was Shalmaneser, took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria, right? And placed them in Halah and in the harbor by the river of Gozan, and in the cities of the Medes, right? So, boom, all right? We're gonna say this. Now you see, with the northern kingdom, they went captive into the Assyrians, right? So let's jump down. Let's jump down, right? Just jumping through the chapter, right? Lord willing, right? Right? So we'll jump. Matter of fact, we'll just read down, right? It said, for it was so that the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord Yahweh their power, which had brought them up out of the land of Egypt, from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and had feared other gods, and walked in the statutes of the heathen, whom the Lord Yahweh cast out from before the children of Israel, and the kings of Israel which they had made. And the children of Israel did secret those things that were not right, and against the Lord Yahweh their power. And they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city. They set them up images, groves, and hills, grows in every hill, every high hill, and under every green tree, right? You know, I want to continue now. I want to get to the point. Let's see. Bear with me. Okay, right here, right? So, Second King, we're going to jump down to verse 20, right? Because, eventually all Israel fell away, right? All Israel fell away. Right now we're going to Northern Kingdom. We're going to go into Southern Kingdom as well. That's how I read verse 19 as well. It says, and also Judah kept not the commandments of the Lord Yahweh with their power, right? But walked in the statutes of Israel, which they made. And this is what you got to think. That's why the Southern Kingdom got took down by the Babylonians. Then you had the Medo-Persian Empire, right? Cyrus the Great came, right? Medo-Persian Empire. He had the Greeks. He had the Romans. When the Romans came, we're going to go into that great diaspora in Luke chapter 17, right? We're going to got a little book, little students we're going to showing you how our people scattered over to Africa, right? Right? But we just going into how, going into how our people got over here in a sense, history of how people got over here, right? We went into the split of the kingdoms, right? You see how Northern Kingdom, they in Samaria, but Salmanassar, the Assyrians, they came and took over Samaria, right? Because the people was going off. Remember, Jeroboam made the golden calves. They worshiped the golden calf, which we're going to go into, right? It says, and the Lord Yahweh rejected all the seed of Israel. All of them was going off, right? It said, and afflicted them and delivered them into the hand of the spoilers, right? Until he had cast them out of his sight. Right? Because the Most High caused people to come to take over the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom, man. Every time we went into captivity, we went into hardship, Most High caused us to why? Because we was sinning, we was going off, right? That's the main thing people don't understand. Oh, God won't do that to our people. No. Nah, this is because he told us, hey, what he say? You do all these things, you're going to get you're going to get the promise. You break these commandments, you're going to get the curses, and the curses came upon our people because why? Right? We didn't listen. We broke the commandments as we read it, right? It says, for he rent Israel from the house of David, and they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat, the king, the Ephraimite, right? It says Jeroboam drave Israel from following the Lord and made them sin a great sin, as we read about, making the golden calves. And the children of Israel walked in the sins of Jeroboam, which he did, they depart not from them, until the Lord Yahweh removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants, the prophets. He uses prophets to testify against them, telling them to tighten up. It says, this is how you doing today. It says, so was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day. So they was carried away captive. And you got to think, that's why that lady at the, lady at the well, she wasn't an Israelite, right? She was an Israelite. You had, as we're going to read, said the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon and Cutha and Ava and Hamath and Severium and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. They possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. So you had these people, Salmanassar brought all these people into the land, and Israel was carried away captive, right? So you had these people growing up in the land because they tried to go in the land, but they didn't know the commandments and laws, commandments that was in the land, right? So Most High sent lions among them to slew them, right? When he sent the lions among them, right, when he got the high priest came to teach them laws and commandments. So you had these people being raised up in those ways. They don't mean they was Israelite. They was just being raised up in those ways, right? That's why that lady, she wasn't Israelite. She was just raised up in the way of an Israelite, because you had these people in our land because the Northern Kingdom was carried away captive, right? So let's go from there, right? Now you're seeing what happened to the Northern Kingdom. Took out their land because they've been over here in America. What is that, 722 BCE when the Assyrians came and took over, right? So let's go to 2nd Ezra chapter 13, right? And start at verse 40, right? Because they was over here, going to just showing you how the Northern Kingdom was over here first. They was over here, just showing you how our people got over into this land, the history of it, right? So it says 2nd Ezra 13. Esau can't knock history, man. He tries best to hide it. He tries best to put it behind him, but he can't knock history, man. Our people was over here first, right? This 2nd Ezra, 2nd Ezra 13, right, starting at verse 40. It says, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, who Salmanassar, right, who we read about earlier, the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters and came into another land. But they took the counsel among themselves, and they would leave the multitude of the heathen, because all the people in their land, right, and go forth into a further country, wherefore never mankind dwelt. What is it talking about? The so-called American Day, Babylon, right? Nobody was over here. They came over here, right? That's why when you go to Matthew 10, right, starting verse 6, when he said he said, go down to the way of let me go to that, because you had so many people in their land, so they Northern Kingdom like, look, we just gonna leave and go over here and worship Yahweh Shah, right? Matthew 10 and verse 5, it says, these 12 Yahweh sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not to the way of the Gentiles, right? It says, and to any city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, because you had all them people into the land. You know, Solomon had brought all those people into the land of Samaria, right? So the heathen, the Northern Kingdom like, look, we gonna go over here to a place where mankind never dwelt and worship Yahweh Shah. We're talking about what? America, right? They was over here first, right? Verse 42 says that they might keep their statues, which they never kept on their own day, right? That's why, and they knew the Northern Kingdom was over here, right? Christopher Columbus came over here with 5 Hebrew interpreters, right? He came over here with 5 Hebrew interpreters, right? Because he knew the people was over here, right? His real name is Cristobal Colon, right? What's the real name of Christopher Columbus, right? He came to the Americas with 5 Hebrew interpreters, right? He was not Italian or Israelite, right? So this is one of his main interpreters, Luis de Torres, right? Interpreter. One of the main languages he spoke was Hebrew and Aramaic, right? Which stems from the Hebrew, right? Shows you what? That he knew exactly where he was going. They're forces of liars. They try to feel like, oh, 1942, he said, oh, some dude, they just, man, no. Right? They came over here, why? Because they at bottomless pit. You know, they need to start their enterprise. They need to expand their way. But our people was already over here, right? He knew the Israelites was here, right? So, continue reading. He says, and they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow place of the river, for the Most High then showed signs for them in hell, still the flood, so they would pass over, right? It says, for through that country there was a great way to go, namely of 1.5 years, in the same region is called Ashereth. And they be trying to say, and it's a book. One of the elders, he had got a book. They said a book at like $700 now. The book's so high now, but it's going to like America called Ashereth. When you read about it, it'll show you through the history of how America was called Ashereth. This was after. This is where the Northern Kingdom came to. It was over here first, right? It was over here first, you know. But you know how they was living when they came over here as well. They came over here, they was bugged out as well, right? But in a sense, they was over here first. This is how the Northern Kingdom got over to the Americas, right? That's why Yahweh Shah said, for my sheep, right? John chapter 10, right? What is that? John chapter 10, for my other sheep. John chapter 10 and verse 16. He says, and the other sheep I have, talking about who? The Northern Kingdom. Because the Northern Kingdom was already over. They had left 722 BCE. They had been over here a long time. You know? They had been over here a long time, man. Right? It says, and the other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, right? Because at this time, Yahweh dealing with who? The Northern Kingdom. He's dealing with, he's dealing with the Southern Kingdom. Because the Northern Kingdom was already over here because they were led away captive, and then they was already over here in the Americas. Right? It said, the other sheep I have, which are not this fold, them also I must bring, right? They shall hear my voice, right, with these scriptures, right? And there shall be one fold and one shepherd, right? Because now the kingdoms are coming back together, right? So now Yahweh Shah dealing with them what? Through the spirit. And you know, everybody says the breaches of David, right? Being brought together. The house of David is being brought back together, right? The spirit of Yahweh Shah, right? So I want to go to this book real fast and read a little bit of it, right? Let's see. Right? It's titled, Elder Apostle Romla read it as well. He did a lesson on it, reading about it, right? It's called The 10 Tribes of Israel Historically Identified with the Aboriginals of the Western Hemisphere, right? Understanding that our people was over here first, and they knew that. They knew our people was over here first, right? I don't know what's going on. Right? So, let's see. Let's read a little bit of it, right? We'll start here on page, right here it says, to the Antiquities of Mexico. The following pages are indebted for the most valuable portion of the testimony by which they are enriched. The rare and costly compilation, right, which was a few years ago published by the Right Honorable Lord Viscount Kingsborough, right, has hitherto been little known beyond the libraries and universities and those of a few noblemen, because they hide these things, but they know, right? It says the Antiques of Mexico at the present time consists of 7 folio volumes, right? So it's 7 folio volumes, and writing of how, these people are Israelites that was over here in the land first, Northern Kingdom, which, with the exception of the 6, contain facsimiles and drawings from such historical remains, right? So you got copies of it. These people try to hide it and get rid of it, but they can't get rid of history, man. Right? It says, and as had escaped the destruction, because while they tried to delete it, they tried to get rid of it. As escaped destruction, to which all the primitive records and the other memorials of the tribes of the new continent had been condemned by the policy of the invaders in the 15th century. Talking about who? The Spaniards, because who was over here? The 10 tribes, Northern Kingdom, they was over here first, right? It says, literature and antiquarian travelers having from time to time transmitted these precious relics to their respective governments, they have been preserved in the royal libraries of Paris, Berlin, Dresden, the Imperial Library of Vienna, and the Vatican Library, Vatican City, where the Roman Catholic Church dwelled, right? It says the false prophet in the museum at Rome. So they have these things put up. They just hide them because they don't want the true history to come out. Job 13:4, forgers of liars, man. They put this out, but that's why the scripts and now the understanding is back into us, right? So now Esau can't trick us to deceive us no more, right? It says in the library of the Institute of Bologna in the Bodleian Library, right, Oxford, right? So that's really what I wanted to read in that, just showing you how it's documentation that Esau tried to get rid of to show you how, the Northern Kingdom was over here first. That's why they tried to come over here and say they was savages and they was this and they was that. But then people come over, Esau came over here distorting, man, right? Because they had their whole MO, what? And enterprise, because their whole agenda is to what? Push the New World Order. And when Rome fell, Jake was ruling, right? Jake was ruling during that time, right? The Moors was ruling. The Moors were just Israelites who practiced Islam. They was ruling in Spain and Portugal, right? So they was ruling, right, from 1711 to 1492, right? They was ruling. But when Esau came back up after those 1,000 years, when they was down, they came back up. They went out deceiving the whole world, deceiving everybody, right? And needed to start their enterprise. Job, let's go to Job chapter 5. They needed to start their enterprise to, establish the beginning of that New World Order, which is here. That's why the scripture said, Jeremiah 49, he uncovered his secret place, immediately paraphrasing. It's talking about America. That's why this place is going to be destroyed. Job 5:12, it says he disappointed the device of the crafty, so their hands cannot perform their enterprise. They need this place so they can perform their whole thing, build it all up. I mean, that bottomless pit ain't have none of those things. So they had to come over here and take it over. But they know who was here first, right? So now let's go into the Southern Kingdom, right? Let's go into Luke, right? Let's go to Luke chapter 20, right? Oh, I might be 21. Luke chapter 21, right? And verse 20, right? It says, and when you shall see, this is how Shah talking, how Shah was warning them, right? He says, and when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, the desolation thereof is now. Why? Because 66 AD and 70 AD, that was when the Roman Empire came and took over our people, took over our land, right? It says, let them that which are in Judea flee into the mountains, right? And let them which are in the midst of it depart out, right? It says, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these are days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled, right? So this is when the Roman Empire came and slaughtered our people, right? They came and slaughtered our people, you know. They came and taken over, our land, right? Let's see. That's why he said we see Jerusalem compassed with armies, right? Let's see, bear with me. Right? This Revelation 12, right? Starting at verse 14. It says, and the woman, talking about Israel, was given he said, we're given 2 wings of a great eagle. That's just like a swift delivery. It's us escaping, right? That she might fly into the wilderness, right? The wilderness is what? Africa, right? It says, into her place where she is nourished for a time and a half from the face of the serpent. Who was that serpent? Esau, Edom, right? Because the Romans was, coming to get us, and that nourished meaning what? Section 8, EBT things, that such, right? He says, and the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood. That's the one mean what? The armies, right? That he might cause us to be carried away with the flood. Because the earth helped the woman, right? What? Because we scattered all over. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon cast out of his mouth. Talking about the Roman Empire, right? Because they came out our land, they took over our land. And a lot of people escaped, they got away. The ones who listened to Yahweh Shah, they escaped and got away, right? So let's go into the book. One of my favorite things I like to go into this book. It's just showing the proving all, right? It's already right here from Babylon to Timbuktu, right? The book called Babylon to Timbuktu, right? Right here, right? We're gonna go to page 84. We're gonna show you how, when you understand history, the Flavian. They started with Nero, right? You had Nero. Nero's in the time of the year of the 4 emperors, right? You had Nero, right? And then Vespasian. Then after all them, Vespasian was the last of the year of the 4 emperors, right? When Vespasian came, the reincarnation of Julius Caesar, right? Everybody said Ezra 11, right? That started the Flavian dynasty with Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian, right? And because Nero had already sent Vespasian over here as a general because Jake was rebelling. There was uproars, riots, things as such, right? So Nero sent Vespasian over there to shut it down, right? But then the year 4 emperors, Vespasian ended up becoming emperor, right? Ruler, right? One of the 12 Caesars, right? And after that, that's when the Flavian dynasty started. That's when they basically come finish it off. Him and his 2 sons, Titus and Domitian, right? So we're gonna go down to page 84, right? Right. We can go ahead to page 84, right? Right here, right? Page 84 is from Babylon to Timbuktu, right? He says, in the year 65 BCE, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state. The great slaughter, right, during the period of the military governors of Palestine, right, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa. We fled into where? West Africa, right down that coast, where it was easy for them to, that's what it comes to that falling away happened, right? It was easy for them to put us on them boats and on ships. You gotta watch a movie, it's called Woman King. It showed a little bit of it. How you had the Africans selling the Israelites, giving Israelites to the so-called white men. They was bringing us on ships over here to the Americans on slave, Deuteronomy 28:68, which is part of the curses, because what we read, because we was sinning, we was going off. So the Most High, he turned his face from all the seed of Israel. The Assyrians had already took over the Babylonians a long time ago. Then we end up being brought over here captive, right? The Great Diaspora, which we're going to read about, right? So it says, fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery. The slave market was full of black Jewish slaves, right? So that's when we were scattered, right? So understanding that our people, we fled into Africa, right? Let's go mess with chat. Now we can brought the scripts with. Let's go mess with chat, and that's how we came over here to the Americas. We go to Deuteronomy 28:68 because who was in Africa? Guess what? They was giving us to the so-called white man, and they bring us over here on a slave ship, right? So let's go here. Let's go to chat, right? Let's go to chat. let's see. Let's see. Where did I'm gonna say, what part of Africa did and when you understand it, the more we got farther from our land, the whacker we got, the more we lost our custom, the more we lost our ways, right? Just playing with chat, asking questions, right? So I asked him the first time what part of Africa did the Israelites fled to. Because AD said after the destruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem in 70 AD, the First Jew-Roman War, when the Israelites were scattered throughout the Roman Empire in Africa, right? The main place they fled or were already established were in North Africa, especially Alexandria in Egypt, Cyrene, right? Tunisia, right? Other parts of Roman North Africa, Morocco, Algeria, right? Later developed long-standing Jewish, right? So I asked him, I said, was it West Africa right there on the coast? There's no strong historical evidence, because these are things they're gonna hide. These are things they're gonna try to hide, show you, because why? It's gonna prove and show you that what? The Israelites were the ones that was brought over here on slave ships. Why try to tell you African? Nah, man, it's not our damn land. Our homeland is Israel, Jerusalem, right? But we fled from our homeland into Africa and was sold there to the white man as slaves. Once again, Deuteronomy 28:68, right? It says there's no strong historical evidence that the large numbers of Israelites fled directly to West Africa, right? West Africa's Atlantic coast immediately after 70 AD. The best documentation, right? That's what they're gonna do, right? So I'm gonna say this. So did any flee to West Africa? I'm finna play with chat head, right? Okay, so I said, did any do it? They say there's no confirmed historical record showing that the Israelites fleeing the Roman destruction of Jerusalem in AD went directly to West Africa coast in large number, right? So I'm gonna say, so the Israelites wasn't those slaves that were brought to America. Now watch what he say. The people taken to the Americans through the transatlantic slave trade were overwhelmingly Africans from West and Central Africa, right? Especially regions that are now Nigeria, right? Ghana, right? You know, a lot of them over there are Jake. But you see how Esau not gonna want to show, right? Because he's gonna show that what? We were those slaves that brought over here on slave ships over here to Americas, which will show you what the Most High say. He's cursed to be upon you as a sign. It's gonna show you who the chosen people are. It's gonna show you who the Israelites are. They don't want to say that. They don't want to put it out there. But we know it through the Spirit, right? Through research and understand it. Our people fled into that on the West Coast right there. How you think they got to the Atlantic? That's why we just, matter of fact, what it says, right? Go back up. Right here, it says, there's no strong historical evidence that large numbers of Israelites fled directly to West Africa's Atlantic coast immediately after. Come on, you know Esau. You know what? Job 13:4. They forced of liars. So this is how the Northern Kingdom got over here when they fled. When they left the Assyrians came over, took over Samaria, right? You know, then they took upon themselves to lead from amongst the heathen. Because Solomon saw brought all people in the land, they came over to the Americas, right? Then you had Jake. Our thing go down to Great Diaspora, right? Let's go into the Great Diaspora. Great Diaspora, right? Great Diaspora, right? So the Jewish diaspora or scattering refers to the historical. That's why you gotta teach the truth. That's why the Most High say teach the truth to the four corners of the earth, because our people are scattered all over, man, right? Because the Jewish diaspora or the scattering refers to the historical, often forced dispersion of Jews outside the land of Israel, established communities worldwide. Key causes included the Babylonian exile, the Roman destruction in 70 CE, and the subsequent persecution. This dispersion fostered the creation of diverse culture, as Nikia, Sephardic, Mizrah, and maintained distinct identity with major cities in Babylon, Europe, and the Americas. Right? The Great Diaspora, Greek for scattering, represents the aggregation of Jewish communities living outside of Israel, a condition known as Galt exile, which often associated with the Roman destruction of Second Temple in 70 AD. This diaspora began earlier with the Babylonian captivity in 586 BCE. Another thing that just came to my mind, another reason Chad not gonna want to mention that there was the Israelites being brought over here on slave ships, right? Is because why? Right? They were exposed that those phonies in our land now are not the true Jews. That would expose their whole thing. It would mess everything up, right? But we know through they can't stop history, man. You know, we no longer toss to and fro. Now we back to our knowledge and understanding. Now we soon to be up out of here. Now we soon, now we returning back to Yahweh Shah day by day, right? And we soon be back into our land. Everything is going to be exposed and put in its right order soon, man. Right? So this that great diaspora when we scattered out. I want to play with chat a little bit more, asking him about right, going into him, speaking to him about it. So I'm gonna say so. Matter of fact, let me go back to Babylon, Timbuktu. I'm gonna ask him, man. So the Israelites then fled. So there's no Israelite fled to West Africa, right? Wait a minute. I want to read a little more in I thought it was a little more reading in Babylon Timbuktu, right? When our people fled, right? Our people fled to Africa. It's like, yeah, my fault. I was getting caught. I was reading a little bit more. I thought it was somewhere I want to bring out, but we kind of got the point. How they just go into history of how we got to the Americas, man. How we got over here, right? And all the captivity we went through, what we faced. It was all prophecy, though, right? You see how both the kingdoms end up in the same spot to where what we're going to be gathered together. That's why Yahweh told the disciples what you're going to teach in where Samaria, right? Jerusalem, right, which is Jerusalem, and Yahweh, which is Judea, right, and the uttermost part of the earth, which is what? Talking about the Americas, right? So now let's go to Amos, chapter 9, right, verse 11. It says, "In that day I'll raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close the breaches thereof." Right? What's that talking about? The northern and southern kingdom split. Now it's being brought together. Now both the kingdoms being brought back together. Right? Remember Ezekiel 37. Those dry bones, as life is going into them. That's what all the kingdoms brought together. Northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. That's the breach thereof being closed up. Right? The breaches of David. Right? Tabernacle of David. That's why they're going to be the thrones of David. That's why we're going to sit on the 12 thrones of David. In the kingdom, Lord, of the elect. Right? It says, "And close the breaches thereof, and I will raise up his ruins," right? And I'll rebuild it as in the days of old, because it's all gonna be brought back together, man. The kingdom, we're gonna be brought back. The northern kingdom, southern kingdom, all be brought back together, right? And we're gonna rule with Yahweh Shah, man, right? It says they may possess the remnant of Edom and all the heathen, which are called by name, that the Lord Yahweh, that doeth this, man, because everybody gonna be our slaves in the kingdom, right? We're gonna be our whole kingdom be brought back together, Because right now, for a long time, kingdom was split. But you see how prophecy brought both kingdoms over here, and now it's being brought together, right? Let's go to Ezekiel 37, right? And we just showed you how it split and how we got over here, and how Esau's forged of liars, man. They try to hide things and try to put things behind, but hey, the truth is here now, Baruch chapter 2, verse 30. And the land they count, they shall remember themselves, right? This is Ezekiel 37, right? Verse 21. It says, "And said to them, this says the Lord Yahweh, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, where they be gone, right, and will gather them on every side and bring them to their own land. I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be a king to them all, and they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms anymore at all. Neither shall they divide themselves anymore with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions. But I will save them out of their dwelling places, wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their power. Right? He says, and David, my servant, shall be king over them. Right? Because it's Yahushua, King David. Right? Then you got the 12. Then you got the governing body, the elect, man. Right? Or you got the thrones of David. We'll the elect. We're gonna sit on the thrones of David with Yahushua ruling. Right? And that's why it says the priest and Earl gonna be brought together. The tabernacle of David gonna be built back up, man. Right? Because it was a perfect kingdom under David. It says that David, my servant, shall be king over them. They shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgment, and I observe my statutes and do them. Because the spirit of Yahushua is gonna be in. The spirit of Yahushua is gonna be in us. We're gonna be perfect, man. No more sin, no more going off. And our kingdom not gonna fall apart ever again. We're not gonna fall off ever again. We're gonna rule forever, man. So with that being said, Lord willing, right? Hope the lesson was edifying and exalting, right? And I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, and Kakadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shout out to the whole elect, starting with the 144,000. Shalom.